Hey folks, it's time for another extended education moment. And what we want to talk about today is the value of a networking group and one key component of what makes a networking group worthwhile. Like if you look at this picture, like you could tell that if it's an empty room, the networking experience is going to be bad. So when I opened my business about a decade ago, I did what new business owners should do. I went out and I joined the Chamber of Commerce. And I was excited for this because I thought this is going to be a great opportunity for me to meet the right people and make connections and grow my business. And so I had a really great grand opening event. We did greeters and things like that. And that was really neat. But then when it came time to have the regular Chamber of Commerce events, I kept finding that we had the same people in the room over and over and over, and they were all in the same business, and it was not very valuable to me at all because there wasn't very many people, and there wasn't very much variety, not a lot of contact spheres that I could work with, and so I just didn't really stay involved with my Chamber of Commerce because of that reason. And so whenever the opportunity came around for BNI, I was kind of skeptical actually because I had already had that networking experience. And so it was really great to see that there was category exclusivity and that there was a really high rate of attendance. And so all the people that I needed to be in the room were there in the room. So one of the things that's nice about BNI is attendance is part of the value that you receive. Because of the rather structured attendance policy that we have, you can feel confident that every week your chapter is going to show up. There's going to be people there that you can pass referrals to, that you can train as to the right kind of people that you're looking for, which is going to maximize your opportunities to really get the value out of BNI that you want. So the attendance policy is extremely important in BNI. So I want to take a second to actually talk about some of the aspects of the attendance policy and what it might mean for you. There's a couple things that I find that people have some common misconceptions. They hear one thing and they're like, well, is this what that means? And so I just wanted to clear a few of those items up. So first of all, in BNI, you can have up to 3 absences in a rolling 6 month period. So that means, for example, between February and August, I could have a maximum of 3 absences and not lose my seat in my BNI chapter. Let's say that I had 2 absences in February, and then I had 1 absence in August. When September rolls around, those 2 absences in February, for like if I haven't had any besides that one in August, those are gone. And so that allows for some flexibility because sometimes life happens and you don't have coverage at a meeting. You should never plan on just being absent, but sometimes those things happen. When you get to 4 absences, you can see the next item there. That is when math kicks in and your category becomes open. Now, your category becoming open is like B and I speak for you're dead to us. You're out of the chapter. You're no longer a part of the group. We open your category, so to speak. So here's where some of the misconceptions come in because people have sometimes heard, well, you can have a sub, but if you have 3 subs, then that counts as an absence. And so then if you do the math, you're like, oh my gosh, so if I have 12 subs, does that mean that I'm out? No. So subs don't count as an absence whenever it comes to the attendance policy and honoring this 3 absences in a rolling 6 month period. Where subs do count against you is in your traffic lights. And so every 3 subs that you have counts as 1 absence whenever it comes to traffic lights. And so if you like maybe look at that and you see that your attendance is 92% and you're thinking, wait a minute, I've never missed a meeting, or I've always had a substitute there. Why is it 92%? Why isn't it 100%? That's why. So For every 3 substitutes that you have in your traffic lights, it counts as 1 absence. And that kind of makes sense because really what we want is we want to interface with you. And so when you're not there in the group, it takes something away from the group. And so when we're trying to look at something that like traffic lights, where we're trying to get people to 1 meeting a week, we're trying to have them bring in at least 1 referral, do 1 1-to-1, and so on and so forth. If you're not there, then it really can't be considered that, like, you're delivering a stellar performance and we're really getting to network well with you. So just to reiterate, the 3 absences will open up your category, or sorry, is the maximum you can have. 4 absences opens up your category. Subs do not count as an absence towards you eventually getting kicked out. Hopefully, it would never come to that. But they do count against you in traffic lights. So let's talk a little bit about what makes a good sub. So these right here are examples of the subs that we're not talking about, like a submarine or like a sub off the bench. So first, let's talk about what makes a bad sub. Um, these are people that you would want to avoid asking to come and fill in for you. So in general, and hopefully all this would just be obvious, but maybe some of it isn't. You're not going to want to pick somebody that you know is unreliable. So that person that, yeah, when you set up a meeting time with them, you're not sure if they're going to show up every time, or they're probably going to be late, or something like that, or they have a lot of things that tend to come up in their lives, or like a lot of drama. That might not be the best person to choose for a sub, because if they don't show up, it just counts as an absence, and that's it. Also, somebody who is unprofessional. So, if like your Uncle Gary, who likes to get drunk a lot and say really inappropriate things and like really embarrass you, if that might not necessarily be who you want to come and represent you, or somebody who doesn't understand your business and what you do, or can't talk well about your business. Like, I'm a chiropractor, and so if I have somebody who's always trying to make like weird jokes about like breaking people's necks, that's not the guy that I want to come and represent me to the group. And so if you can't see somebody being able to thrive, or at least hold their own in a professional environment, that's probably not a very good sub. Also, a bad sub is somebody who wants to be what we would call a serial sub. It's kind of like a serial killer, right? So I call it's like a serial killer because what it does is it kind of devalues everybody else's membership when you have somebody who's able to just come for free, and just as long as they're representing somebody else. And we'll see this from time to time. Somebody will show up and like we'll give them the information about the chapter, ask them if they're interested in joining, and well, I'm just happy to sub for somebody anytime. That is somebody that we should never ask to sub for us, because it goes against the giver's gain philosophy. We have all given to be a part of this group. Like, we had to apply, we have to show up, we had to pay money. Some of us fill leadership positions, and so we're really, I mean, we're all in, right? We're paying our dues and everything like that. And so it just really violates the spirit of all that if you have somebody who is finding an alternate route into the chapter. So stay away from serial subs. What makes a good sub? So you really want to find somebody who knows your business. Now, when I say knows your business, they don't have to know it in and out, but they have to be familiar with what you do and be able to speak well about it. So, like, a great example might be an employee or a client, a business associate, a colleague, maybe a vendor that you've worked with, anybody like that, who understands what it is that you do, and I mean, is great if they're even enthusiastic about it. That's somebody who would be a good sub. Somebody who's punctual, who is you're going to be able to rely on them being there, and they understand the time commitment, so they can be there for the full hour and a half. Somebody who will communicate well. So if there's somebody who is like oh, I don't know, they're like too quirky or too weird, then you might want to skip them. But like somebody who you feel like can carry on a good conversation and really represent you in a positive light. And then also somebody that you can feel confident will keep the rules. We've had problems in the past with subs who show up and they really just have their own agenda, and they kind of violate the spirit of some of the rules that we have. And there's ways to make sure that people know those rules that I'll get to in a second. But so, like if you have somebody who's like, well, I don't care about any of your stupid rules, like that might not be a great choice as a sub. So let's talk about what makes an amazing sub, right? So we want somebody who has all those qualities of a good sub, of course. But ideally, we want somebody who comes to us with a new contact sphere. So it's really common for people to ask, like maybe another BNI member from another chapter to come and be a sub, and that's a good sub. Um, and one of the reasons that they might be good is whenever they come to our chapter, we get access to whole new contact spheres, right? They have their whole chapter that they work with, and so there's an opportunity for some cross chapter referrals and exposure that way, which is a pretty neat opportunity. The reason they aren't ideal is because the very best thing about a sub is that they could potentially end up joining, and so that's a really great thing. So when you're thinking about who could be a sub, think about somebody who could eventually join us. And I know that that kind of is counterproductive because then you have to go out and find some different sub. But trust me, it's great. I had somebody sub for me once, and I totally forgot that she even had a business, and I didn't think that she was serious about this business. But I had her come fill in for me, and so she came and she loved it, and she saw her small business that she was starting to run as something that could thrive in BNI, and so she joined, which was a huge surprise to me. And so, in the time that she was in the chapter, she became the president of the chapter. She invited 5 members to join, including one member that's still in today, and it really helped to grow her business and grow her as a businesswoman to the point where now she's gone on to do even bigger and better things. And so you always want to be thinking of like, and it's a great way to introduce somebody to BNI, like who's somebody that the chapter would really benefit from getting to know and who could possibly even join in the future. So, just to kind of wrap it up, I just wanted to share a few best practices for using substitutes. So, besides evaluating, making sure that you have the right kind of person, they're kind of checking all those boxes. What I would recommend is to select a few people who could potentially be substitutes for you. I know most of us have like one go-to person that we're thinking of. Like I have an employee that I like to send whenever, I'm going to be traveling or something, but I have a few other people in mind as backups. And the reason is because what if that person isn't available or they get sick or whatever? So you want to have a few folks that could possibly fill in for you. Some ideas would be like an employee or a coworker. I mentioned before maybe a vendor that you work with, maybe somebody who is in another networking organization with you. So like maybe somebody you met through Chamber. It could be a customer. It could be a colleague, a competitor, who knows? Just uh, really rack your brain in terms of people who have had some experience with your business who could potentially be a sub. Then the next best practice is to invite them to attend a meeting with you. So get them to a meeting before you need them. One of the reasons this is great is because it's going to help them to be really comfortable and become integrated into the group so that whenever they show up and they're subbing, we're going to welcome them with open arms and we're going to remember them. We're going to know that they're connected with you. It'll transfer over some of that social capital and make sure that they have a great experience. On top of that, There won't, I mean, we can avoid some of the awkwardness of, is it my turn to speak? And like, when am I supposed to do this? And what am I supposed to do? And so it's a really great thing to do is to invite your sub to come with you before you actually need them. And then whenever you do have somebody substitute, don't send them to the meeting and just have them freestyle, right? Give them a script to read, or if they're just going to show up and give a testimonial, which we've seen done before, have them write down their testimonial. It's so much easier for them if they can read it, and then also make sure and ask them to practice reading it. Because if what we see sometimes is you might give somebody a written script and they want to talk about the script for a while. Oh, I just got this, and oh, let me adjust my reading glasses, and oh yeah, look, so I'm just reading this word for word, and oh, this is interesting that they say this, and I guess, and and then they've used up all the time and they haven't actually ever read the message. So give them the script to read, let them know you've got a time limit. So just read the script and we'll be golden, right? Or if they're going to say something, ask them to like rehearse it just to make sure that that there's no like embarrassing situation around the timekeeping. And then finally, this is a great opportunity to do your own kind of testimonial for BNI. Let them know what an important opportunity BNI is for you, and what it's done for your business, why you're sacrificing your Thursday mornings to get together and network with some people. And what I found is when you do that, it makes it so that they want to do a better job for you. Typically, you're going to pick somebody who likes you pretty well to sub. If they don't like you pretty well, or at least like wonder if you're going to fire them or something, they probably aren't going to show up in the morning for you. But if you just really can instill in them a sense that this is an important thing for me, these are important people to me, then that's going to help them to come and have a good experience. And also, it's going to help the group because when you give that testimonial, they're going to come and they're going to be looking for how is this special. And so when they hear about what other people are looking for and what other people can do, it's going to transfer some of that trust that you have to them, and maybe even make an opportunity for some business or deeper networking opportunities. So that's it for this education moment. So what I would recommend that you do, here's the action item. Get a piece of paper, make a list of about 3 to 5 people that you can think of who might be a good substitute, and go ahead and talk to them and ask them, hey, sometime if I needed you, would you be willing to come be a substitute for me in my networking group? And if they're intrigued by it, go ahead and invite them as a guest or a visitor, and let them see what BNI is all about. So we stick with the attendance policy, the substitute policy. The meetings stay high quality for everybody, and we can really get the value that we're looking for. So that's it for this education moment, and we will see you at the meetings.